The fact that we have 50,000 views, it just astonishes me. I didn't think we were going to get 50 views. I thought the only people that were going to listen to this were coworkers and just friends of friends, and that would be like it. Maybe 25 people at most, maybe just 15. You know, that was my that was my goal. That was going to be how I was going to range success at that point, because I didn't think this was going to lead anywhere. It's an amazing thing.
I've always been obsessed with Godzilla movies since I was a little kid. Just the fact that so many talented artists from so many different fields came together and tried so hard on movies that were so, really, when you analyze them, silly and ludicrous. That, to me, from an early age, showed that you could maybe make movies out of anything. There was no limitation as far as, like, you can make a movie about anything. As long as you commit to it, you can make a movie about anything.
One time when I was in 6th grade, I kept passing by the VHS of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, and just on a whim I got that and Empire Strikes Back, just because I was like, well, this is shit, at least, I'm going to watch a great film afterwards. And I was so disgusted and horrified by how grotesque Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla was that I had no choice but to watch every other Godzilla film I could get my hands on, and it spawned an addiction that continues to this day.
Keep rolling. Right.
Mike and I met because we worked at the same movie theater, and we were not really close at first.
It was early on in our working together, and I hadn't quite, become friends with him, as it were. And he said something at a safety meeting we had. It made some loud, overly sexual comment about putting the captive view device into the cup holder, and something about using your hands to press the rubber plug into the crevasse or something in front of the entire everyone who worked at the theater and all the bosses and everyone. And he said it really loudly, and he really committed to it, and I was just like, who is this asshole? Who is this guy? I have to jump him after work and beat him. Physically assault him.
I think we didn't really start bonding till we both realized we knew who Udo Kier was. And after that, it eventually became clear that we both knew a lot about Godzilla.
Nate possessed what can only be described as a freakish knowledge of Japanese cinema. Godzilla movies were the thing that, him and I connected on.
I think anybody who likes these movies has had, at some point, a hard time in school or in just social life in general, because it's really hard to pitch it to other people, and finding other people who like these films is very, very hard.
Well, finally we had a staff dinner, and we went to a Chinese restaurant. It was like 15 members of the staff. We got a pretty big table towards the back, and Nate and I started talking about Godzilla.
We just unleashed all this pent-up knowledge we had accumulated over the years to all our fellow staff members at this dinner.
One of our coworkers, Jack Kapler, was like, you guys, this is great. People would listen to this. Have you guys ever thought about doing a podcast? And I said, I have thought about doing a podcast, but I didn't quite know what to do. And all of a sudden, it all sort of formed. It was like, okay, this is fall 2013. There's a Godzilla movie coming out next May.
He had the idea that, well, if there's a new Godzilla coming out, we could theoretically, if we, discipline ourselves, we could do an episode a week, give or take, and lead all the way up to 2014's Godzilla.
Why wouldn't we do this? The first thing we had to do was see if we could even talk to one another for 45 minutes or an hour about a movie without it just completely falling apart, seeing if it was even a good idea for us to do the show.
We had to prove to ourselves that we could continue a long conversation about these films and not just last 10 minutes and then run out of ideas.
We got together in I think August of 2013, and we did a pilot episode of Mothra and Etrigan. The microphone we used to record was from Rock Band. We tied that around a lamp, and so it would, it was at the correct height, and we got together and we talked about it, and we ended up having a really fun time doing it. The audio quality was terrible. I had to double it up and max it out just to hear it.
The audio for that episode was really, really bad, and we really were the only ones who could understand it because we recorded it. It was really hard to show to other people, but that being said, it proved that we could do it.
Luckily, my friend Tom had an amazing microphone, and he let us use it, and that was really, he basically gave it to us. We got that microphone, and we were on our way. Quick background, I am a big Godzilla fan, been watching this movie since I was a young kid, and Nate, I assume you have been as well?
Yes. Big since I was a kid. It destroyed many friendships, relationships, potential marriage.
Yeah.
But all for the love of this wonderful lizard thing.
Mm-hmm. And not worth it, I would say. I mean, you could have had a good life.
Yes, yes.
Those first couple of episodes really poured out of us.
We were finally allowed to just unleash all this knowledge that had been built up over years that we really couldn't talk to people about publicly because no one really wanted to listen.
We both clearly loved the original Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters, the Americanized version of it. And so there was a lot of, obviously we really enjoyed talking about the craft involved in that film. But we also both clearly hated Godzilla Raids Again, its sequel, and we took just as much pleasure tearing that movie apart. Talking about 1955's Godzilla Raids Again for an hour is not an endeavor that I would consider that in and of itself has merit. It's not the correct choice. However, talking about every Godzilla movie is an endeavor that I believe has merit, and technically this is included amongst the Godzilla movies. Ergo, we must talk about Godzilla Raids Again.
Yes, we must.
Since that was the second episode, I think that sort of communicated to people from the jump that, look, just because we love Godzilla doesn't mean we universally love every Godzilla movie the same, that we're idiots and that we're just hypnotized and we're just going to give everything the huge sign of approval. In fact, it was saying very clearly in those two episodes, okay, this is one extreme and this is the other.
Through this medium, we were able to find a way to inform people about it and also be entertaining about these films. And these films are entertainment, even the more serious ones, they do have an element of entertainment to them.
We knew that if we could just get it set up, we'd be good. The audience found us, and thank God they did. We kept making them.
Now what? I think we're both fused. It's no good. Damn it! Why can't anything go right today?
After a few episodes, we eventually decided to bring on a few guest hosts, and they really added to the mix. We started out with Tom Beto on Son of Godzilla.
You can tell from the quality of his voice that he's very upset and confused and angry. He does not want to be there. But it was all good fun. Son of Godzilla was released in 1967, yes?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
it was. 67.
And so we should talk about it, I think, for an hour. What do you think?
Well, it was 2 years before the Summer of Love.
What?
1 year. Woodstock.
The Summer of Love was 1967.
Oh, it was?
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
when
it was 69.
Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club came out. 69 was it was the summer of Woodstock, but it was also the year that the hippie dream vanished
Oh, dear.
in the shadow of a stabbing at Altamont.
We've had Dominic Griffin.
Dominic Griffin, is an amazing guy.
We've had Pat Brennan.
Patrick hosted the Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla episode. He was great.
Kyle Bragg.
Kyle Bragg came in for the Godzilla vs. Megalon episode, and it was a lot of fun because he knew as much about garbage cult movies as Nate did about Japanese cinema.
Cara Palermo.
Cara Palermo has recently been working with us on our King Kong retrospective.
Nicholas Gussie.
Emmett Williams, Rebecca Rosen was my roommate at the time.
Jessica Sabo for Godzilla 1985, and Krista Fulton for House. The fact that we could find somebody that also enjoyed that film and was equally mesmerized by that movie. Oh my god. That episode was unofficially sponsored by Sapporo Beer.
So they cut to the noodle place, the weird, creepy noodle man, and he's eating, and then everyone's grossly eating noodles.
Yeah.
Like, I did not enjoy
That's a sign of respect in Japan. It's like you were enjoying those noodles, you're slurping.
I guess you're, like, horking it down, though. I'm like, ugh. But then they just casually cut over, and next to the noodle shop guy is a fucking bear dressed in, like, the full noodle shop employee
That
uniform.
wasn't a bear dressed as a noodle shop employee. That was a noodle shop employee that was also a bear.
You know, the
Like,
economy...
it wasn't
And he
like,
was evil.
It wasn't like the bear was surfing anyone.
He was evil.
It was just like, there was this bear there.
Yeah. Aaron Ballou is the most pro-values co-host that we have had or could ever have. He didn't just change everything, he changed changing things. Jack Kapler stands out as a personal favorite. Jack is just such an amazing guy in general, and that was just a really fun episode.
In most cases, the joy was the fact that many of them had never seen a Godzilla film before or hadn't seen all of them. So to be with, say, an outsider, but someone that wasn't just as strongly familiar with the franchise as we were, was great because they brought a fresher perspective.
In a way, I think he is sort of, we're seeing the beginning work of a nascent auteur, and who's just cut, and they just go, no more.
Right.
You know, imagine if after David Fincher made Alien 3, which we could probably conclusively agree is just an odd movie, if they were like, no, just never. That sucked. And then we never got Seven or Fight Club.
I want to see what Bana's Zodiac would have been.
I would kill right now with my bare hands any stranger you put before me if I got to see Yoshimitsu Banno's take on Zodiac. Just like, can you... yes, I'll kill a man right now if I have to. I'll do it.
So once we got going, that initial timeline was deliberately set so we would have to do one episode a week. It definitely kept us very busy. There were weeks when I wish I could have taken off, but we had to push through it.
Our goal was to finish this by the time the 2014 Godzilla came out in May of 2014. It really built up energy and enthusiasm for us to achieve that goal of finishing it with the latest Godzilla film. Unfortunately, after seeing Godzilla 2014, then became the greater question, where do we go from here? So from there, we decided to review other Toho monster films that had been made by many of the same people that produced Godzilla, but were not necessarily within the Godzilla universe. We did War of the Gargantuans, the Attack of the Mushroom People, House, as you mentioned before. You know, these are films that were either, you know, made by Toho or with people who had been part of the Godzilla production.
You know, the question is, what do we do to keep it going if we want to keep it going indefinitely? Do we start to do every Gamera movie? Do we do Ultra Q and then eventually Ultraman? Do we start covering every episode of Power Rangers? And, you know, you do have to, I think about those types of things, and ultimately it's a question of, you know, is longevity worth the slow reduction of a type of quality that we've been able to maintain? And is that worth it? You know, which is better, the British Office that is only 17 episodes long, or the American version of The Office that was like 9 seasons? We'll see what we can do with it in keeping to the true spirit of the show. We're definitely, our work isn't done quite yet, I can tell you that.
Thank you to everyone who's listened to this podcast, who's put up with our juvenile delinquency over the last, two years now. And thank you so much for the support. It feels really good, you know, to hear that we're making, you know, you guys happy. It feels really good.
Just, if you like us, keep listening. Tell your friends about us. And, you know, just thank you so much to everyone who has listened and who has continued to support us, certainly friends and family. And, you know, this is for you. Thank you.
As far as Shin Godzilla goes, all I know is that Shin, I believe, means new, so it'd be new Godzilla. What happens will happen, and it's kind of like the new Star Wars film. You know, we're going to keep our expectations low with the hope that we're going to be blown away and changed forever by it. But until the film actually comes out, we're just going to just keep our fingers crossed. We do plan to review it. Whether, you know, we take a break or not, we're always going to review any new Godzilla film that comes out. We've made that promise with each other that no matter what, we will find a way to to discuss Godzilla.